there, so. Yeah, no. Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started here in a minute. Where did our chairman, Bill Cosby? No. Because we're going to have to switch it. So I'm going to open up this session, but before we go through roll call, I would like to have Chairman Bill Cutts come up and make an announcement.
Good morning. I'd just like to give you a report on the Resolutions Committee activity from last night so that you can sort of have a feel for where we're going today. The committee had a very productive session. We were able to get out in time to actually get to the banquet before they started serving food. We dealt with the two resolutions that were tabled yesterday and came to some consensus on language for them, and they will be dealt with later in the day. We discussed the livestock industry resolution, which is resolution number 16, livestock industry humane standards and animal waste management. And the committee has decided to split that resolution into three separate resolutions. So the committee has withdrawn the resolution that's that's included in your book. And at each of your places this morning, you found copies of the new resolutions. That resolution will be replaced by three separate resolutions. I think there is one of them still being printed, so you will get that shortly. And we will, because of the complexity of that and your needing to read them, we will move dealing with those resolutions off until the afternoon session so that you have a chance to look at them and digest them. No pun intended. We also, we discussed there will be a couple of resolutions that will be asked to be removed from the consent calendar this afternoon. So we have a big full day we're going to have to try and squeeze in, and I ask for your indulgence. So as we go through the day, as you can find time, please review those new resolutions. There are going to be a total of four. The three which were the original livestock resolution split into thirds, and then there is a new resolution coming from the floor with dealing with honey in the cottage industry. So take a look at them, and we will deal with them as we can get to them. Thank you.
Okay, good morning. We're going to move through this as quickly as possible because we got a lot to cover. So we're going to call the session to order this morning, and I appreciate everybody being here on time. Thank you very much. Can you all join me with the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Introduction of the State Board. Dr. Byer, Vice President, Gloucester County. Debbie Noers, Somerset County. Paul Lubick, Burlington County. Holly Seifert, Sussex County. Barney Hollinger, Cumberland County. Lisa Specca, Burlington County. And Kurt Alstead, Kurt Alstead from Morris County. I will now call Holly Steitneff to give a credentials report.
Mr. President, the Credentials Committee has met to review the certificate of election forms provided by the various agricultural organizations for the delegates attending this convention. We find all the certificates to be in order. Therefore, I move that this report of the Credentials Committee be accepted.
Thank you, Holly, for that report. I now call on Secretary Fisher to do roll call.
Morning, everyone. Roll call for, starting with Atlantic County, Ned Gain. Frank Schoenstein. Bergen, Darrell Secor. James Abner Sr. James Abner. Okay. Burlington, Bill Pettit Jr. Roger Kumpel. Kate May, Frank Germanio. Jerry Futrell. Cumberland, Tim Ekus. Keith McIndoe. Essex, Frank Yaslavovich. Gloucester, Diane Byer. Hunterdon, Jeffrey Balby. Dave Bond. Mercer, John Hart. Frank Janey. Middlesex, Jim Maurice. Bill Griffith. Monmouth, George Aspercolis. Gary DeFelice. Morris, Brant Davis. Dan Ferran. Good story last night, Dan. Ocean. Rick Wenzel. Passaic, Bruce Corbett. Somerset, John Knox. Matt Puskas. Sussex, Phil Brodiker. Mike Berger. Union, Jessica Dreyer. John Dreyer. Warren Mitchell Jones. Tracy Smith. State Ranger, New Jersey, John Benedict. Richard Sarwin from Hunterdon. Monmouth, Joan Smith. Warren, Tim Matthews. Agricultural Fair Association of New Jersey, Debbie Dabinet. Denise Dabinet, I'm so sorry. American Cranberry Growers Association, Bill Cutts. Board of Managers, NJAS, Pat Butch. Rutgers School of Environmental Biological Sciences, Brian Schilling. Cultivated Sod Association, New Jersey, Alan Carter. Garden State Seafood, Robert Weiderspan. Garden State Sheepkeepers, Brittany Smith. Grim and Forage Producers Association, Scott Klukas. Horse Park, New Jersey, Stone Tavern, Rich Clark. New Jersey Ag Society, Rich Norris. New Jersey Angus Association, Bob Mickle. New Jersey Association of Agriculture Educators, Christine Gattadora. New Jersey Beef Council, Rick Gardner. New Jersey Beekeepers Association, Jeff Bird. New Jersey Blueberry Association, Denny Doyle. New Jersey FFA Association, Laurie Newhart. New Jersey Farm Bureau, Reich Sedam. New Jersey Farmers Direct Market Association, Anna Trapani. New Jersey Forest Association, Elmer Platts. New Jersey Holstein Friesian Association, Melanie Richmond. New Jersey Horse Council, Susan Rothermel. New Jersey Landscape Contractor Association, Chuck Bacon. New Jersey Nursery Landscape Association, Steve Wagner. New Jersey Landscape Association Metropolitan Chapter, Lori Jensen. New Jersey Peach Promotion Council, Lou DiGenio. New Jersey Plant and Flower Grower Association, Skip Bartlett. New Jersey Polled Hartford Association, Al Sosowski. New Jersey Quarter Horse Association, Gail Mastromonico. New Jersey Soybean Board, Rich Hates. New Jersey State Horticultural Society, John Hauser. New Jersey Veterinary Medical Association, Dr. Eric Hates. Northeast Organic Farming Association, New Jersey, Callie Alexander. Outer Coastal Plain Vineyard Association, Mark Hernandez. Standardbred Breeders Association of New Jersey, Taylor Palmer. Thoroughbred Breeders Association, New Jersey, Mike Campbell. Vegetable Growers Association of New Jersey, Angelo Trapani. That's it. Thank you. This out of your way.
Thank you, Secretary Fisher. We're going to call Joe Atchison to come on up and kick the session off here with lightning success stories.
What are you laughing at, Ned? Good morning, everybody. Morning. Everybody still singing the songs from last night? I'm farming and I grow it. Stuck in my head all night. So as I announced last night at the end of the banquet, and Secretary Dave mentioned, this is the lightning round when lightning strikes. It's we're hoping, and this session counts on you for some success stories, things that you tried on your operation that worked. You worked well. You might want to share with some of our folks, and we're looking for you to contribute to this. We have limited time. We have some very special limited edition prizes, and so we're encouraging everybody to think about it. We asked you last night to start thinking about it. So if with no further ado, I'm looking for the first hand. Rich Norris. Now, don't everybody rush to raise your hand, but.
Does that mean I get it since I'm first?
We're going to vote on that.
So about 2 years ago, we milk cows. Most of you probably know that we milk cows. We sold that about 13 years ago with our dairy. So our milking parlor was sitting empty and collecting dust and lots of junk. So we filled in our pit for our milking parlor and we turned the room into a bakery. It was daunting to go through it with the town, but it actually worked out relatively easy for us. We were baking at our church for our business, which was about a mile away. So besides the bakery, being right next to our freezer where our ingredients are, it's much easier. And thanks be to God that last year, and this is very unfortunate, that on the September 1st flood that came from Ida, our church where we did all the baking was flooded out and the kitchen was destroyed. We are rebuilding it, but we got very lucky and we have a great setup. So just remember, on your operations, anything could be done. You just have to try. When do I get my trip?
Thank you, Rich. Oh, yeah, it's a one-way trip, Rich. Debbie, don't smile too much. Now, this might look like an ordinary brown box, but this is the magical prize box. I'm going to reach in and see what we have here. It would be good if I took all the tape off. I knew better than that. We have a Jersey Fresh backpack cooler.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, yes, keep looking for it.
So look,
All right.
this could be anything. It could be a video you did. It could be a story that you've told that really resonated in the community. It could be a product that you never thought you'd ever be selling, an observation, anything. I know this is difficult for farmers to be able to do a lightning round.
Well, I've got two hands on deck. So.
And they're not shills?
No.
Okay, let's hear it.
Rick Wenzel was up next, and then Lisa, you're after that.
Thank you. So in the commercial fishing industry, we all try to get up before dawn, get our gear set out before the sun rises. In the seafood gleaning program that we established, we get what's called a bycatch, which are the fish that are undesirable. And we've been gleaning cow nose rays. So one day, one of the boats had some mechanical issues and ended up leaving the dock about an hour later than the rest of the members in the fleet. And when that one vessel hauled back, they didn't have any of the bycatch of the cow nose rays. Meanwhile, all the vessels that left on time did. So in the commercial fishing industry, everybody realized real fast that if they got an extra hour's sleep, they didn't have all the discards. So it was a change. And unfortunately, it didn't work out well for the food banks who were receiving the bycatch. But the moral of the story is sometimes it's better to get an extra hour's sleep.
It's the old early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. Well, since you work along the shoreline, we have a fabulous super plush Jersey Fresh beach towel. And you know, I can tell how big it is. It wraps all the way around the knee.
I guess you get 2 beach towels then.
Lisa, I believe you're up next. Thanks, Brick.
Morning, everybody. So at our farm, our retail staff consists of mostly college kids and a bunch of ladies my age. And we struggle with social media, but we have one woman that's really, really good with it. And she's 65. So Facebook is the limit. She doesn't do Instagram, TikTok, nothing. So one really adorable 20-year-old girl that works for us part-time, you know, she's all buff, goes to the gym. She and Wendy got their heads together and decided that we needed to move into the younger folks with our social media. So she started doing TikToks where she impersonated Joe Carcioni, the greengrocer. Now, some of you may remember him from way back in the day. He used to come on the news with your tip for the day about vegetables. So she'll be juggling apples and doing the Italian accent, and everybody cracks up when they look on our TikTok. So a lot of our older customers are coming in, and there's all this buzz about Joe Carcioni, and the younger people are like, who's Joe Carcioni? But it got our younger customers and our older customers talking to each other. So I guess it was a success.
Thank you. Joe Carcioni, your greengrocer, with your tip for the day. I remember him. I'm old enough.
You know, I was thinking back from a few years ago when Brianna Fulper had a calf camp for at her dairy operation, and people would adopt a milking calf or whatever. Was that what you call it? Milking calf or dairy calf for a week, and it was hundreds of dollars that people would come in from New York City, and this is several years ago, just to adopt to work with that animal for a week, and it was an extraordinary thing. And it was, I mean, there's all these things across the state that all of you have done that are remarkable. I'm looking at Kurt. Kurt's got like 900 of these ideas, you know. So, but anything that you'd like to share, it's fun to hear, and I think it would be, you know, it obviously helps to the bottom line as well.
And Lisa, going back to what you said, it relates back to our research yesterday that showed women 65 plus were the most active Facebook users with Jersey Fresh. So that dovetails perfectly. We have a bamboo Jersey Fresh cutting board. All right, I need a couple more hands. I see 2 in the back. You first.
Thank you. I am a horse owner within the state of New Jersey, and I keep my horse at a boarding facility that used to be almost exclusively hunter jumpers. Most recently, there have been a couple of ladies at the farm, older ladies at the farm, who have gotten into dressage. And in order to cater to these ladies, our barn owner has expanded one of our rings to the regulation size of a show dressage ring. And we are actually planning on hosting a couple of ECRDA sponsored shows throughout the year this year. So it just comes to show that people of all disciplines are able to talk to each other and communicate, because I'm personally Western.
All right, thank you. I'll be right back. All right. What could it be? Oh, it's a magic backpack. Oh, expects me to catch first thing in the morning. Not that coordinated. I don't do a whole lot of running or sliding. Thank you, Denise, though. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm from a dairy farm in Salem County. We have one of the largest dairy farms in New Jersey. We milk 400 cows. We ship all that milk every day, 37,000 pounds of milk a day. 2 years ago, our co-op had decided to cut how much they're going to pay as 100%. So not only was the price of milk already below what your production cost is, but they said they would only pay that for 85% of our daily output. The rest of that 15%, they could choose how much they were going to pay, whether it's going to be $5 a hundredweight, $3 a hundredweight, whatever they decided was the market rate for it for surplus. So one of the things we decided to do is start feeding that milk to our calves. So we have 80 baby calves that we feed twice a day. So we were buying milk replacer. So we're shipping milk out and then we're buying dried milk back and adding water to it to feed 80 calves twice a day, which of course it's not the same price that we are selling it for when we're buying it back. So we decided to use our own milk, which we had been against that, to use hospital cow milk because maybe there's a little bit of mastitis. It's a milk that we're not selling to the general public. We were just putting down the drain. So after doing some research, we found some farms in Pennsylvania that were adding citric acid to their milk, and they were making acidified milk. So the one problem about that is you have to lower the temperature. In our bulk tank, we have 2 bulk tanks. We lower the temperature to 38 degrees before we can sell it. We had an extra bulk tank sitting there, so we modified it so we could lower the temperature only to 60 degrees and add our citric acid, and you agitate that, and then the milk is preserved. It doesn't go bad, but it's not all the way down to the refrigerated 40 degrees because a baby calf doesn't want to really drink milk that's 40 degrees. So we were able to save, we were spending more than $200 a day feeding our baby calves, and now we are only costing us about $30 a day feeding them using our own equipment. The other farms that we went and looked at, they had fancy buggies to feed all their calves, to mix it in. We had an extra bulk tank sitting there, and I went actually to our local dairy plant, and he gave me 5-gallon buckets because we need 15, 16 5-gallon buckets. So we are very unconventional. We're just opening it up, filling up the 5-gallon buckets and putting it in a hot water bath. So we found a very simple way to maybe feed the calves better and also to use our own milk without spending a whole lot of extra money on the setup.
Great story. Thank you. All right. Towel, please. No, magical towel. Super plush. Ultra luxury. Oh, yep, that'd be great. All right. I see Alan Carter. Hard to miss. Your arm is sticking up in the air, Alan.
So I'll be short. I'm not going to give you my trade secrets because I don't want everybody growing grass in here. But if anybody follows us on social media, we get a lot of youth that drive across our fields, destroy our crop, etc. So 2 years ago, the local RC club, which is those radio-controlled airplane guys, got banned from the local town's park because there was concerns that the airplanes might be coming too close to the kids or the parents that were there, etc. So I happened to reach out to them. I said, hey, Mr. President of the RC club, come on out to the farm. Let's talk. Now we have the RC club. There's 40 to 50 guys that come out there on weekends and fly their planes around. And their number one job, they can do this for free as long as they refuel their planes on the road and not on our grass. You can do that for free. And they keep an eye out. So I now have free security guards on the weekends that are patrolling our farm. And they come in on Monday or Tuesday with a little list of license plate numbers of people that have been driving through our farm or a description of a four-wheeler or whatever. And I got neighbors now watching the farm for nothing.
Perfect. Thank you. I love that the tallest guy in the room says he'll be short. All right. Oh, way in the back. I see one in the back. It's a good thing I charged up my Fitbit this morning, getting my steps in today.
Hi, I'm Talia. I actually work right under Melanie on her dairy farm in South Jersey. I've been involved in agriculture for maybe 5 years now. I'm pretty new to it. And our local community college ag teacher, their intro to ag teacher, asked me to give a tour on our farm. I was a little not so confident simply because of my knowledge and my experience. I said yeah though, and I gave him a tour around our farm, told him as much as I knew, as much as I could pull out of my brain, even though I don't perfectly know the ins and outs of our farm. But I had two students come up to me, one of them who has grown up on a dairy, and she said, "You influenced me to go back to my dairy and work on it and work with my family." And then another girl who has no dairy experience said that I influenced her to go find a dairy to work on. So it showed me that something as simple as my voice, even though I wasn't so confident, could influence those to get re-involved or involved in agriculture.
Thank you very much. Christine will be right by with your backpack cooler. Just gonna keep walking back and forth, but give you time. Oh, Angela, I see you back there. And then Lori, I have you next. Be right with you.
One thing you hate to admit, but you get old. And years ago, we used to we'd move bees, and I could pick most of the boxes up, no problem, just throw them on a truck and off we went. So last couple of years, I built a crane that will fit in my receiver on both trucks, on my flatbed or my pickup, and I got a long arm on it. I go out and pick the beehive up and just swing it over and put it in my truck. Nothing on my back or anything, just, and the ladies, young ladies, they all like it in there too. Because sometimes if you drop their home, that's their home, if you drop their home too hard, a lot of young ladies come out there and they're a little angry. So you don't really want to make them angry. So by that, it's nice and easy, it just comes right over. So it makes our operation a little smoother.
Thank you, Angela. Here comes your beach towel. All right, and then Lori.
Okay, thank you. So it's the beginning of the pandemic, and our members, which are landscapers, retail garden centers, we're uncertain. Can we work? Can we be open? What's the deal? Thankfully, the Department of Agriculture helped us out to decide what we can and can't do, but we're like, how are we going to let people know? So we hired a videographer, and we started doing these short video clips that we put on social media, right, including Facebook, and we called it Keep Gardening Growing. And so we were able to help our members by showing, the public that we can still be in business and how to do it safely. Fast forward, we're still doing this. We now have a monthly TV show on public TV. It's called Growing Green, and it's for the public, and it teaches them different ways to garden and to be excited about gardening, which then helps our members. So that's it.
All right. Thanks, Lori. Brittany? Secretary said to me last night, I left this in your hands. I'll be surprised to see what happens tomorrow. And I said, so will I. So I think this is going very well, and I appreciate everybody participating. We have time for Brittany and two more.
So hi, everybody. I'm Brittany. Some of you might remember me. I spoke as the 4-H representative a few years ago. So when I was a freshman in high school, I was given a couple fields on my small family farm, multi-species farm, to start a sheep project. I am here representing the Garden State sheep breeders. And while I'm still trying to grow this project and develop it into a business, my family, who was pretty old school, we stayed just producing for the family farm, showing animals at our local 4-H fair. By them allowing me to have those fields, purchase new sheep, start a purebred project, I'm now showing across the country. We have the little ones in our family involved. So it's just, remember to let your youth have a spot on your farm to develop their passions to keep them in agriculture.
Great message for sure. All right, the next two hands I see will be our last two. Got one, got two. Morning, Diane.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diane Byer, and keeping along with the sheep theme, I was a horse person. I had a horse and a cat when I got married to my husband, who had sheep and one horse and border collies and the typical farm cats and everything. And I had been a knitter years ago and slowly got into the sheep breeding and whatnot with my husband's polypay flock. And now we have Cormo. I joined the guild. I'd always wanted to learn how to spin and weave wool. I joined Third Star Fiber Guild in Salem County. And now I have all the wool I can handle to knit. And it's been a wonderful journey. So, yeah.
Thank you, Diane. Last one. Oh, that's bright. Nice and bright. And our last one of the day.
Thanks, Joe. So pre-pandemic, everybody's tired of the pandemic and coronavirus and all that here and all that news. But pre-pandemic, little history back history, I run a landscape company. We have 25 to 30 employees. Pre-pandemic, everybody would come in at 7 o'clock, punch in, go to the locker room, drink their coffee, sit around the shop, BS a little bit. 7:30, 7:45, they were off in the truck and on their way. So it's about an hour of wasted time. The pandemic came along, we were allowed to work. Thank you to our associations and the state board. But we had to do a split shift. So we had split shifts of 5 guys coming in at a time. Everybody freaked out. What are we gonna do? How are we gonna get out? Soon I found out they punched in, got their stuff, got in their trucks, took off because the next shift was coming in. At the end of the day, all those guys would come back. The first crew that came back would wait for the other crews to come back. They'd play soccer and do all that. Long story short, it eliminated my hour of wasted time in the morning. Everybody came in, got what they had to do, got out. They came back in the afternoon, punched out, went and sat under the pine trees out front, played soccer, did whatever they had to do, and conversed on their own time instead of the company time.
Great, thank you. Christine, yep. All right, well, we were scheduled to end at 9:50. If you take a look at your watch, nailed it. And the magic prize box is empty. Thanks, everybody.
So thank you, Joe. First of all, Joe ran with it. I said we wanted a lightning session. We really didn't know what it was going to be. But we talked about with the board. The board, every year, we sit down soon after this convention is over and we start all over again. Like, what's next year going to bring? Now, some years it's been things like listening sessions. And frankly, I think we had those for several years in a row. And we decided that listening sessions, essentially, we hear you. And there's the resolutions, and we put the resolutions together. And we felt that this year we could shift it a little bit and do some presentations and then come up with a couple wild and crazy ideas, actually, like a lightning session. I call it speed dating. I had no idea what we were going to do. And Joe, because he's so good at what he does, he crafted this to figure out how it would structure. My point is this: it's your convention. So every year, don't hesitate to send in what you think might be a good idea for all of the board to ponder, the department to ponder on what might be either interesting to you, informative to you, entertaining to you, and whatever that is to make this better and better. So it's not just a staid, we do resolutions, we go home. You know, there's certainly last night, which was Dr. Byer's idea to have the Dr. and Debbie, I guess, the two of you. Anyway, several people on the board. Diane said, the Peterson brothers, they do these videos. I think it would be great. And the board went, yeah, that'll be great. And before you know it, they were here. And the 5-month-old baby, I'm sure she's going to have a heck of a story to tell. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, it's your convention. If you have ideas, please bring them to the board, bring them to the department. And, we want to expand the horizons of what it is that we do here each year. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Joe, thank you for bringing that up and having fun with it. It was our morning exercise routine without the exercise, mental. I kind of like that exercise routine. And you get a takeaway. So I get the ugly job. We're going to open up the voting session, the serious job. Chairman Cutts, will you join me? Let me just review a couple of things, but before we start going forward this morning, please take the opportunity when you come to the podium and you want to make an amendment, please try to write it down a little bit to make sure that when you come up, we can get it up on the screen and we can move it along as quickly as possible. So Mr. Cutts' duties: introduce the resolution to the convention body, number one. Number two, receive the motions and amendments that are associated with the resolution. Number three, receive and discuss as it relates to the resolution on the floor. And final, call for the vote of each motion and amendments, all in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we're going to get started. If you look at your schedule, you can see we have 2 voting sessions this morning with a speaker in between. And as I said earlier this morning, we're moving the livestock resolution off until this afternoon so that you have a chance to take a look at that. As a result, that sort of throws us all out of whack. So what we're going to do is we're just going to proceed through and do as many as we can until we have to stop for our speaker in between our 2 morning sessions, and then we'll pick up again and get as many done as we can before lunch, because the afternoon session is going to be packed. So we're going to begin this morning with resolution number 15, dairy industry, found at page 42 of your book. I will begin reading at page 44, line 74. Oh, by the way, Jeff Beach is under the weather this morning, so he's not here. Nikki over here is filling in. Nikki, raise your hand, stand up. So now you all know how good Jeff is at what he does, but he's had a lot of experience. So take it easy on Nikki. If you have proposed amendments, when you're at the mic, please speak slowly as she's trying to capture what you're saying. It would really, really help if you could jot it down. If you know ahead of time you're going to make it request an amendment, you can jot it down and give it to Nikki. Just walk over there and hand it to her. Make sure she knows which resolution it's for, and we'll work through this. But that's what we're going to do. So, page 44, line 74. Forgot to bring my water bottle with me, but fortunately somebody put one up here for me. Got one. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby strongly urge that the New Jersey Department of Agriculture do the following. Work with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority to promptly activate the $1 million in funding approved by the legislature and governor specifically for dairy farm equipment purchases, so that upgrading of equipment on eligible farms can begin, and to help dairy farmers access all other appropriate state and federal government agencies with the goal of maximizing small business funding program opportunities in order to create value-added dairy processing units that will support and grow the dairy industry in New Jersey. Establish a New Jersey Dairy Innovation Working Group that will be a part of the Northeast Dairy Innovation Center States program, with the goals of the working group to be providing assistance to New Jersey dairy producers and businesses to help obtain grants and funding that promote development of production, marketing, and distribution of dairy products, and to assist producers in innovation development of existing production models or those who wish to enter an alternative dairy production model on either a state level or regional basis. Continue to support value-added projects, both on-farm and those that involve processing at off-farm sites that can offer New Jersey dairy farmers significant premiums for their milk, helping to reverse the cycles of low prices affecting dairy farm viability in this state. Help dairy farmers expand beyond solely cow's milk to include alternative dairy products like the on-farm processing and distribution of milk from sheep, goats, and water buffalo, among other species. Work with the state and local governments and agencies, as well as the dairy industry, to ensure maximum funding for programs and efforts aimed at risk management and milk quality improvements in order to move producers to a higher quality level for a value-added market. Work through the department's Division of Marketing and Development to provide enhanced support for establishing a viable Jersey Fresh dairy products brand. Enthusiastically support development of a processing facility that would be owned by a group of milk producers and facilitate balancing milk use and production. Develop a simple fluid milk business with the ability to limit inherent risks of balancing seasonal production volatility and seasonal changes in consumption, thus aiding in developing a plan to utilize excess milk production at certain times of the year for other products or when faced with shortfalls in fluid milk sales, and develop methods of increasing fluid milk volumes during times of improved consumption and decreased production. Enthusiastically support and work with the legislature to pass and the governor to sign legislation that would provide state funding to help New Jersey dairy farmers pay for loss coverage insurance programs that help support farmers who are selling their milk at less per hundredweight than what it costs them to produce it. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion. Do I have a second? And a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. Now, we are going, as I said this morning, we're going to skip over resolution number 16, Livestock Industry, Humane Standards, and Animal Waste Management, and move on to deer impacts on agriculture. This resolution is found at page 55 of your packet. I will begin reading at page 56, line 47. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby strongly urge that the Division of Fish and Wildlife continue to allow baiting with corn, apples, and other products for the hunting of deer, as it helps to improve both the safety and effectiveness of hunting in areas near residential development and provides a revenue source for farmers and food retailers. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the legislature pass and the governor sign legislation amending NJSA 23:4-24.2 so that the Division of Fish and Wildlife can make all decisions about baiting in order that it can be used as an effective tool for the management of deer and other wildlife. Be it further resolved that we oppose legislation that seeks to prohibit deer baiting by hunters in areas designed as black bear habitat, in part because the legislation fails to define black bear habitat, leaving open to interpretation of the Department of Environmental Protection what areas of the state in which someone could be charged with breaking the law. as well as leading to a further increase in the existing deer overpopulation that causes millions of dollars in crop damage a year. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the responsibility for managing the state's deer population be moved from the DEP and placed instead in the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, which understands and will consider both the agricultural and broader societal impacts of the deer population when making decisions about the management of deer. Be it further resolved that we support the expansion of wildlife damage surveys and management plans for deer, as well as for other wildlife, for New Jersey, as well as deer management, as well as deer/wildlife damage research and education by the Rutgers NJAES Center for Wildlife Damage Control. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the legislature and governor to continue providing funding in the state budget for Hunters Helping the Hungry, so that venison gleaned from hunting can continue to be effectively donated to community feeding organizations. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? We have a motion and a second. And a second. The floor is open for discussion. Bill.
Sorry, no basketball players here. I move that we change the wording on line 63 from strongly urge to demand.
Line 63. Oh, look who's back. We're glad to see you, Jeff. Okay, so we have a motion to change strongly urge to demand at line 63 as shown up on the screen. Do we have a second for that motion? We have a second. Floor is open for discussion on the amendment, on the proposed amendment.
Okay, 2 years ago, this body, with the motion off the floor, changed where it said strongly urge in this resolution, which has been an ongoing resolution for I don't know how many years now. We changed every word it said strongly. I'm asking for one word this time. What other group in our state would allow the state to mismanage their livelihoods to some degree by taking very little action? We've heard the DEP tell us for 50 years or thereabouts how they would help us with the deer situation. Most of it's been empty words. We've gotten some things, we've gotten more fencing, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to what we need. I think that at some point in time, the farm community likes to be nice guys, and we sit back and we're polite when we ask for things. Now, this is a word that's demand is a stronger language, obviously, but it's going to take something stronger to get the DEP to move and do something meaningful, not just a little bit here and there like we've gotten for the past 50 years. The farm community deserves better. We are a large economic force in this state that seems to get ignored for a good portion of what we provide to this state. In 2008, when we were afraid we were going to lose the department, agriculture stood up on its back feet and we put tractors in Trenton. We got noticed and we got action. That's the problem. We're kind of taken for granted because we are too docile in many respects to get what we really need for our industry, to move it forward. We talk about sustainability, all these things, viability, sustainability. The deer are one of the biggest impacts on sustainability. We have people in New Jersey that can't farm what they want to farm on their ground because the deer won't allow it. And so many of the guys in field crops rent ground that you can't afford to fence because it's not yours. The teachers union, the public workers union, tell me who here believes that they would wait 50 years to have something that they really wanted changed. They would take some kind of action that would make it happen.
Thanks, Bill. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Back to discussion on the full resolution. Any further discussion on the full resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. We'll now move to resolution number 18, Wildlife and Agriculture, found at page 58 of your book. I will begin reading at page 60, line 60. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey, on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby strongly urge that the governor, the legislature, the New Jersey Fish and Game Council, and/or the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife, and/or all other appropriate state, federal, and local agencies effectuate the following. 1, work with the USDA, APHIS, and the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife as appropriate to expand blackbird and starling control programs in New Jersey. 2, continue to work with the U.S. Department of the Interior, Division of Migratory Birds, and the Atlantic Flyways Council to extend the statewide resident Canada goose season to the maximum extent possible, not to interfere with the migratory birds, and increase the daily bag limit, and to encourage greater control strategies for Canada geese and snow geese. Increase the number of available turkey hunting permits and conduct and/or support extramural research on turkey damage. Support the expansion of wildlife damage surveys and plans for New Jersey, as well as wildlife damage research and education at the Rutgers NJAES Center for Wildlife Damage Control. New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife stopped the practice of pulling a depredation permit if the carcass of a shot animal covered by that permit cannot be found. Continue to support a science-based black bear management methodology that incorporates hunting seasons as needed. Support the continued development and use of a multi-species depredation permit to streamline the process of obtaining such permits for farmers facing crop damage from multiple species, instead of requiring separate depredation permits for each species causing damage. Increase the number of trapping permits for beaver and remove restrictions on depredation permits that hamper their proper implementation. Allow baiting with corn, apples, and other produce for the hunting of deer and bear, as it both helps to improve the safety of hunting in areas near residential development and provides a revenue source for farmers and food retailers. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the Division of Fish and Wildlife to permit farmers to establish comprehensive, long-term, multi-species wildlife management plans, including times when the farmer's crops are in the field and when they are not, and issue a permit worded accordingly. Be it further resolved that we oppose any legislation, executive order, or regulation that would remove hunting as a method of controlling the state's black bear population, especially those that expressly characterize bear hunting as trophy hunting, thus showing a lack of understanding of the need to hunt bear to prevent crop and livestock damage, and insist that the governor consult state wildlife biologists in addressing bear management. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the passage by the legislature and the signing by the governor of legislation to move the administration of the New Jersey deer farming industry from the Division of Fish and Wildlife to the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the governor and the legislature to support legislation that calls for moving the New Jersey Fish and Game Council and the Division of Fish and Wildlife into the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, creating a more logical alignment with USDA and its myriad of wildlife programs, and thus resulting in a better coordinated effort to balance the needs of wildlife with those of the agricultural sector, provided that all concerns about such a realignment are addressed through a combined effort of the NJDA and the NJDEP, with an eye toward accomplishing the missions of both departments. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge that the farmer members of the New Jersey Fish and Game Council, nominated by the delegates to this convention, be expeditiously appointed to that council by June 30th of 2022, as some nominated farmer members have waited years for their appointments to become effective. Be it further resolved that regardless of the alignment of the agencies, that the current director of the New Jersey Division of Fish and Wildlife meet with a group of farmers and agricultural advocates designated by the State Board of Agriculture to discuss ongoing issues regarding wildlife's impact on agriculture in New Jersey by June 30th, and that should be 22, not 21. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the legislature to reject any legislation that would prohibit the use of snares as a means of controlling wildlife in New Jersey. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge that New Jersey's congressional delegation sponsor and support federal legislation to increase by at least $400,000 the USDA APHIS Wildlife Services budget for staffing and support for a pilot cooperative waterfowl damage management program in New Jersey, and to implement actions in support of the depredation order at agricultural facilities contained in the environmental impact statement for Canada geese. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the Division of Fish and Wildlife to broaden the allowed use of crossbows for use in hunting under a depredation permit, and strongly urge the Division of Fish and Wildlife explore the simplification of depredation permits and opportunities for sportsmen to be added to permits at any time, and for depredation reporting to be done with the automated check-in system to reduce farmer reporting. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? We have a motion and a second. We have discussion on the resolution.
Tim Matthews, Warren County. Line number 114. We could probably strike this out since they've been appointed.
Okay, so you're moving to strike. What part are you moving to strike, Tim?
I made it there. By June 30th, 2022.
Okay.
Because the farmer members have been appointed to the council.
For this round, yep. Okay, can we do that by consent? Anyone object to doing that by consent? Seeing no objection, we will make that change. No, it's just striking by June 30th, 2022. Okay, any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. We'll now move to farmland preservation, resolution number 19, found at page 63 of your book. I will begin reading at page 68, line 156. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby support the permanent protection of New Jersey's farmland through the Farmland Preservation Program. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to continue its planning incentive grant program, which to date has resulted in the development of 18 county comprehensive farmland preservation plans and 44 municipal plans that address strategies not only to preserve farmland, but also to sustain agriculture as an industry. Be it further resolved that we support the structure of those plans, including 1, 5, and 10-year goals that target the preservation of 22,000 acres at a cost of $242 million in 1 year, 97,000 acres at a cost of $1.07 billion over 5 years, and 181,000 acres at a total cost of $1.99 billion over 10 years. Be it further resolved that we support the SADC's continued effort to conduct outreach to all municipalities participating in the Municipal Planning Incentive Grant Program to continually assess municipal needs, provide tools and training to improve the acquisition process at the local level, and to increase the engagement of municipal advisory committees in the process. Be it further resolved that we urge the department to work with New Jersey Farm Bureau and other agricultural organizations to increase education of the public about the economic differences between preserved farmland, which is privately managed, and publicly owned and managed open space. Be it further resolved that we support the SADC's continued efforts to make it easier for farmers to access the land and information they need to be successful, including coordinating the New Jersey Land Link website that assists farmers searching for land and partnership job opportunities, making available the SADC's Leasing Farmland in New Jersey guidebook that explains the factors farmers, as well as farmland owners, should consider when entering into leasing agreements, and supporting beginning and established farmers through appropriate resource referral and through research on access to land farm incubator models. Be it further resolved that we urge the State Board of Agriculture and SADC to impanel a subcommittee or working group to examine the forces resulting in the decrease in acres preserved under the Farmland Preservation Program from 2015 to 2020, to gather information about the changing market within the development community and its resulting pressures on farmers to sell their land, to examine the appraisal process to ensure that each appraisal is prepared independently in order to truly achieve independent appraisal values for the highest and best use of each property, and to examine the issue of giving specific consideration to smaller farms in urbanized counties. Be it further resolved that the SADC and any appropriate appraisers use NRCS maps, ideally instead of NJDEP maps, to delineate wetlands for the purpose of establishing land values, as the NRCS maps in general are more accurate. Be it further resolved that we encourage the SADC to establish stewardship requirements consistent with the original deed of easement, changed only by mutual consent for preserved farmland, to ensure preserved farmland is properly maintained. And be it further resolved that we support continued discussion by the SADC Deed of Easement Subcommittee to help clarify provisions of the deed of easement so that each is interpreted and enforced consistently and fairly, acknowledging that each original deed of easement may be different from others. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to continue to create plain language documents that detail the sections of a deed of easement that an heir or prospective purchaser of a preserved farm should review to understand all of the restrictions and opportunities that come with the land. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to acknowledge that the limitations set forth in the deed of easement are fixed at the time each landowner signs the deed of easement and may not be unilaterally amended by regulations adopted by the SADC. Be it further resolved that we encourage the SADC to continue re-examining its list of what activities are permitted on preserved lands and to expand, where appropriate, the types of activities that can be permitted, provided that they are consistent with the goals of the Farmland Preservation Program. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to interpret its authorizing statutes and regulations as broadly and liberally as possible to maximize the flexibility afforded to landowners of preserved farmland so that they remain financially viable and are able to compete with non-preserved farms on a level playing field. Be it further resolved that we support the Highlands Development Credit Bank's efforts to develop and adopt formal methodology to create and define municipal averages and their values to be used for the Farmland Preservation Program. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to use municipal average of the value for the development potential as determined by the Highlands Council in lieu of appraisals when a Highlands easement sale applicant so requests. Be it further resolved that we request that the Highlands Development Credit Bank and the SADC establish a municipal average pilot program in the Highlands region so that the utilization of municipal averages in lieu of appraisals for farmland preservation applicants may be fully evaluated. Be it further resolved that we support the SADC's efforts to learn as much as possible from the pilot program called for by Public Law 2014, Chapter 16, in order to help the legislature evaluate at the end of the pilot program what work might need improvement in the future. Be it further resolved that we join the New Jersey State Board of Agriculture in its support of S 2713 as the legislation that best reflects the lessons learned from the pilot program, and if it has not yet been passed and signed into law by the governor at the time of this convention, that we strongly urge that passage and signing into law. Be it further resolved that we urge the SADC to continue creating plain language guidance documents regarding all the issues involved in farmland preservation, and to conduct outreach about those documents to those who have preserved their farms, those considering preservation, or those considering the purchase of a preserved farm, through avenues such as real estate professionals, municipal planning and land use offices, property auction houses, and other appropriate entities. Be it further resolved that we urge the State Board of Agriculture to work diligently to keep farmer appointments to the SADC current at all times. Excuse me. Be it further resolved that the delegates request that the SADC promulgate guidance documents for municipalities that have accepted farmland preservation funds regarding the proper and appropriate use of municipal agricultural advisory committees, create the model ordinance that municipalities could adopt that will define the roles and functions of such committees, and perform accountability outreach to those municipalities to ensure that they are properly interacting with their advisory committees on all pertinent issues. Be it further resolved that we support the SADC's agricultural leasing pilot project to offer a long-term lease on a preserved farm that the SADC owns in fee simple, and to explore the feasibility of creating an incubator model on a portion of the farm to provide opportunities to new and beginning farmers. Be it further resolved that we support the SADC's Farmland Stewardship Deer Fencing Program, which, as of December 1st, 2021, approved $867,942 in grants on 65 farms to install 68 miles of fencing on approximately 3,311 acres of high-value crops in order to protect them from damage caused by white-tailed deer, with $346,000 in cost-share grant funding paid so far for 26 completed projects that installed about 27 miles of fencing on approximately 1,129 acres. Be it further resolved that we support the concepts embodied in pending legislation to create farmer alternate voting members on county agriculture development boards. Be it further resolved that the delegates direct the SADC to create a consistent, streamlined process for applications to CADBs who cannot have their cases heard because of the lack of a quorum due to conflicts of interest, to have their cases heard in a different jurisdiction, and that this process should include simple, consistent tests and guidelines to determine if conflicts of interest exist between applicants and members of the CADBs. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
5 and 246, we urge the State Board of Ag diligently keep farmer appointments on the SADC current. And then also 263 to 265, we support the concept embodied in pending legislation to create farmer alternate voting members on the county ag development boards. At one point in time, we were talking about the state board or the state ag development committee getting alternates for those members also, because the other positions on that board, if I'm correct, have alternates that can vote when the person is not there. But why don't our agricultural representatives have that?
They do. We have an alternate for the ag representatives on the SADC.
So that's
That's
currently
in
active
place,
now,
yes.
and they can step in and
Yes.
and vote if someone's not attending.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if we
Roger
got that
Kumpel is
changed
the
and
alternate.
updated.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. We'll now move to resolution number 20, found at page 73 of your book. I will begin reading at line 38 on page 74. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, support the development of new agricultural programs in parts of the state where human capital is most needed to serve the broad agricultural industry, and recommend the department collaborate with the New Jersey Department of Agriculture to secure funds to be used by Rutgers NJAES to conduct a needs assessment for high-skill, high-wage food, agriculture, and natural resources occupations to help support existing and future established food, agriculture, and natural resources education programs. Be it further resolved that we support the creation of statewide industry-valued credentials for secondary age students in cooperation with industry trade organizations. Be it further resolved that we support and further encourage the recent efforts made by the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences to improve and market the 5-year agricultural science education program that currently exists. The development of the agricultural education option in the undergraduate major in agriculture and food systems, including the development of the courses focusing specifically on agricultural education. Efforts made by SEBS to utilize the curriculum for agricultural science education to recruit high-quality undergraduates interested in agricultural careers, and the development of the post-bachelor's program at the Rutgers Graduate School of Education, developed and offered jointly with the Rutgers School of Environmental and Biological Sciences, leading to the degree of EDM in Agricultural Science Education. Be it further resolved that we support continuing a strong and viable food, agriculture, and natural resources education program in New Jersey through a continuing memorandum of understanding between the New Jersey Department of Education and the New Jersey Department of Agriculture. Support continual improvement of resources and services to all New Jersey instructional programs for food, agriculture, and natural resources education at the middle, secondary, and post-secondary levels. Support the development of innovative, academically STEM-enhanced agriculture instructional programs, and support the increase in supply of agriculture teachers. Do I have a motion to adopt this resolution? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. Did I miss one? Oh, I'm sorry.
I would just like an explanation of what we mean by lines 46 through 48. Why do I ask? I am the National Agriculture in the Classroom representative in the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm trying to understand what we in New Jersey are trying to say about those particular lines. If the author could explain that, it would be helpful.
Sure. Is Aaron around anywhere?
If you'll let me, I'll try to explain. Under Perkins 5, the federal law that funds vocational and career and technical education across the country now requires, as part of their, and the State Department of Education in New Jersey wants industry-wide credentials approved by for students that go through programs. You might see in auto, there's AES, which is the Auto Council, set up standards for people that are in the auto industry. Well, the state wants, instead of just having an end of the program test, they want to make sure that their credentials that are met by the trade organizations are met. And we don't have that in New Jersey. And that's the reason for that paragraph.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those that are in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. Yeah, it's a short one. Yeah. No. Yeah. We'll now move to resolution number 22, found at page 76 of your packet. I will begin reading on page 77 at line 43. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby urge the New Jersey congressional delegation to support an effort to amend the Clean Water Act to make it clear that pesticides applied in accordance with their labels are not considered pollutants under the Act. Be it further resolved that we urge the New Jersey congressional delegation to support an effort to amend the Clean Water Act to make it clear that pesticides applied in accordance with their labels are not considered pollutants under the Act. I think we just asked for that. That's one of those editing problems that you run into. Be it further resolved that we urge the New Jersey congressional delegation to support all efforts in Washington to exempt agricultural operations and efforts to control or eradicate invasive species and mosquitoes from NPDES permitting requirements for applicants of pesticides when applied in accordance with their labels. Be it further resolved that failing such action, we urge the New Jersey congressional delegation to support efforts to ensure that the resources required to process these new permits are covered by federal funds and do not strain the already scarce resources of state regulatory agencies or of New Jersey's hardworking farmers. Do I have a motion? I have a motion to adopt and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. Keep going. Okay. We'll now move to resolution number 22, preserving pesticide availability for agriculture, found at page 79 of your packet. And I will begin reading on page 82 at line 81. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention assembled in Atlantic City on February 9th and 10th, 2022, do hereby urge the department to support the continued availability of neonicotinoid and gramoxone pesticides for the agricultural and veterinary applications they have been used for to date. Be it further resolved that we oppose any legislation to ban the use of neonicotinoids and gramoxone insecticides, as the scientific evidence does not support that the drawbacks of using them outweigh the substantial benefits when they are applied in accordance with the label requirements. Be it further resolved that we encourage an educational program on the proper use of these insecticides be undertaken as an alternative to legislation banning their use, emphasizing the precautions to be taken when using them, with experts in the field creating the educational materials. And we urge the New Jersey Department of Agriculture to closely monitor the effects of the use of insecticides on local pollinators. Be it further resolved that we do hereby urge the New Jersey congressional delegation to oppose any bill pending in the U.S. House of Representatives or U.S. Senate that would give local governments more power over chemical use and would ban individual chemistries, especially those vital to a robust agriculture needed to feed an ever-growing world population. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, under line 84, where it says pesticides for the agricultural, I'd like to add professional landscape and veterinary applications.
Okay. So the motion is to add at line 84, following the word agriculture, the words residential landscape. Do I have a second for that motion? Oh, okay. Professional landscape. Good. All right. So to add at line 84, following the word agriculture, the words professional landscape. Do I have a second for that motion? I have a motion and a second. We have discussion on the proposed amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted.
Okay, John Hart, Mercer County. It was just brought to my attention a couple weeks ago about the EPA wants to ban the sale of rodenticides on the open market, and they want to don't be distributed by exterminators, professional exterminators. So I don't know where to put this in here, but I think we should oppose the the EPA restriction on rodenticides to be allowed to be sold over the counter instead of only through licensed pesticide applicators. I don't know quite where to put that, though.
Okay, Jeff is working on it here. He's looking to put it in at the very end as another.
Maybe on the end where it says that New Jersey Department of Agriculture opposes the EPA's recommendation that they restrict over-the-counter sales of rodenticides because the cost would be overwhelming for homeowners and farmers.
Yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about putting it right at the end? Jeff's putting some language up. Let's let him get that up and we'll see if that works.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be fine.
Okay, so the proposed amendment would be an additional "be it further resolved" added at the very end of the resolution, which would read, "Be it further resolved that we urge the appropriate federal agencies allow the sale of rodenticides over the counter instead of only through professional exterminators." Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Back to discussion on the resolution as a whole. Is there any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution as amended is adopted. Well, let me see how long it is. Okay, we're going to do one more before we stop. Resolution number 23, Rutgers, New Jersey Agricultural Experiment Station, found at page 83 of your packet. I will begin reading at page 85, line 74. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby declare that financial support for NJAES must be improved and maintained at higher levels if solutions to critical issues are to be achieved, ensuring the viability of the state's agricultural and food system. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the New Jersey State Board of Agriculture, the NJAES Board of Managers, county boards of agriculture, and the New Jersey Farm Bureau to work with the governor and the legislature to provide sustained increases in the state base funding for NJAES. Be it further resolved that we strongly urge the New Jersey State Board of Agriculture, the NJAES Board of Managers, county boards of agriculture, and the New Jersey Farm Bureau to work with the county boards of commissioners to provide increased financial support toward the salaries for the county agricultural agents and educator positions. Be it further resolved that we urge the county boards of agriculture and the commodity organizations and New Jersey Farm Bureau to support the Rutgers NJAES Vision 2025 initiative, a critical and demonstrably impactful 5-year investment initiative supported by state special purpose funding and dedicated NJAES infrastructure funds to make capital improvements, IT upgrades, and equipment purchases to strengthen NJAES farms, field stations, and centers to support, develop, and expand research and extension programs and demonstrations that respond to the needs of the agricultural industry and the broader range of critical needs facing New Jersey residents, communities, and businesses. Be it further resolved that we support and endorse the three overarching areas of investment priority articulated in Vision 2025 that support: one, the future of food and agriculture in New Jersey; two, climate resilience and adaptation; and three, personal and community health and wellness programming. Be it further resolved that we encourage continued participation of the NJAES Board of Managers and broader agricultural industry in the Vision 2025 initiative to provide advisory input and guidance on the identification of immediate and long-term programmatic priorities within the agricultural industry. Be it further resolved that we applaud and support the NJAES Board of Managers' efforts to identify and prioritize critical extension specialist, county agent, and other staffing needs within NJAES that will ensure critical program continuity and build new capacity in critical areas of agricultural research and extension, including but not limited to carbon sequestration, soil health, wildlife management, agribusiness, climate adaptation, renewable energy, agricultural technology, and smart farming, and agricultural viability, to name a few. Be it further resolved that we urge the timely replacement of retiring extension specialists and county agents to avoid gaps in service or disruption of essential agricultural programs. Be it further resolved that we also urge agricultural and other stakeholders to communicate with federal congressional representatives through NJAES representatives to the Council for Agricultural Research, Extension, and Teaching, and all other appropriate agencies and officials, the continued need for stable USDA funding for the research and extension missions of NJAES that have proven their manyfold return on investment for more than a century. Be it further resolved that we emphasize the essential need for adequate agricultural industry representation in the process for identifying a permanent executive dean/executive director, and therefore strongly urge that when a search committee is created, the president of Rutgers University and senior university administrators include representation of the agricultural industry and at least 2 members of the NJAES Board of Managers. Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Brick Wenzel, Ocean County. Under line 108, I notice you say agricultural technology. Can we put the word agricultural renewable energy? In other words, one word, agricultural, in front of renewable.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Line
Rick?
108,
Right.
we're going to add one word, agricultural, in front of renewable.
Okay, so the proposed amendment is to add the word on line 108, to add the word agricultural before renewable energy. Do I have a second? I have a second. Motion and a second. Discussion on the proposed amendment. Brian?
Rick, I appreciate the sentiment of what you're saying, but I want to reflect that our involvement also extends to offshore wind and other forms of renewable energy. Oh, I'm sorry. My point is that we are working on agrivoltaics, as you've heard, specifically to support the agricultural industry, but we are getting more deeply involved at private sector requests as well as public sector requests to work in offshore wind, as you know, too, which doesn't have necessarily a direct nexus to agriculture.
which is why I'm bringing this forward. As you know, the commercial fishing industry is not in favor of a lot of the offshore wind that's taking place. And I'm trying to make sure that our policies here reflect the agricultural and aquacultural industry. So one of the things that's taking place is the opportunity for further aquaculture in the offshore wind fields. If you can stay focused on that aspect of renewable energy, I think that would meet the guidelines that I'm recommending. But to go outside of that, I'm trying to curtail some of Rutgers' expansion into that renewable arena by my comment.
Yeah, I understand your concern. And quite frankly, part of what I anticipate our colleagues doing in the marine and coastal area is looking at impacts on biological systems, fishing, aquaculture, and so forth. So I don't know how you want to reconcile that.
So Department of Agriculture, whether it be aquaculture or land-based or at sea, I think that this is the correct forum to make sure that we keep you within Rutgers, within those guidelines, within the policies presented. And that's why I'm making a recommendation.
Fully respect that.
Yep.
And I'll just, again, say that the experiment station has a mandate that is indeed broader than agriculture or aquaculture. So we get called on to address issues from a multiple number of perspectives. Our strength and our history lie in agriculture and aquaculture. We tend to be, I don't want to say sympathetic, but knowledgeable in those areas, so we can have an impartial, objective eye looking at what some of these concerns would be from the industry perspective. I think it's a strength that we would bring to the discussion. You live this, Brett.
Yes. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? Rich? This is discussion on the amendment, on the proposed amendment.
I understand what you're saying, Brian, with all due respect. I also understand where Brick is coming from, that I understand the experiment station is going to branch out and do all kinds of stuff, but I think if it's coming from this body, I could understand having just agriculture included, especially if the aquaculture industry is at the direction that they're looking for. Certainly, I don't think we need to tell the experiment station what to do in other areas outside of agriculture, but I think our main concern would be with agriculture. So I will agree with Brick on this amendment.
And it's not an argument, folks. This is the agricultural convention, so obviously you guys can set what the priorities are from the sector's perspective. And again, we take direction from this body as well as others. So I'm not going to object to this. I'm just clarifying that we will have a broader perspective on the issue necessarily, but this can direct us in terms of what the industry perceives as its priority in this sector. Is that acceptable?
Yep. Thank you, Brian.
Any further discussion?
Bill, before we vote on this, Brick, are you satisfied with the and other forms of?
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask, because I think it changed a little bit from his initial, the proposed, the language that's up on the screen now is adding agricultural and other forms of prior to renewable energy.
I would prefer that we get rid of the and other forms of, please. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Steve, are you headed for the microphone?
Steve Wagner, NJNLA. I think about the last line of representing agriculture should probably read something similar to, at a minimum, the top four leading.
Wait a minute, Steve,
Yep.
We're right now, we're working on whether or not to include the word agricultural before renewable energy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So it just, yeah, let us
I'm
finish
good.
with that one.
All right.
Any further discussion on the proposed amendment shown in red on the screen?
Tim Matthews, Warren County. I'm not sure what the meaning of agricultural renewable energy is. I know what dual use renewable energy is. I would be careful with the word using agricultural in front of renewable energy, and I'm going to kind of agree with Brian on this one. If we want to change agricultural to just dual use renewable energy, I would be okay with it, but I would be careful with the definition of agricultural renewable energy.
Okay. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Steve, can you yield your spot right there to Pat? Thanks.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one other thing. Rutgers is also working on the idea of other kinds of solar energy that could be a financial benefit to all farms, and it doesn't necessarily connect it to agriculture. So I don't want that to not happen. We talked a little bit about the fact that the equipment is now more efficient, that it takes smaller spaces to make the same amount of electricity, that they're lighter, that the roofs may be able to carry more of that panel to create more energy, that we may be able to have an opportunity to sell back energy to the company. That has nothing to do with agriculture. But I don't want to see any of that work stopped. So that it'll benefit agriculture in the end, but it's not a direct nexus to agriculture. So I'm a little worried about connecting it with that adjective or that word.
Okay.
Renewable energy. That one.
That's it? Did I hear him explain it?
Yeah, he's worried about the wind farms.
It's not
Aquaculture.
I don't quite understand, there's been a number of terms in these bills that we've been moving through the legislature that the governor signed. I've never heard the term agricultural renewable energy. And so this is a new dimension, and I don't fully understand what is being asked for. So I'm just telling you from my perspective, in the position that I sit in.
Okay, further discussion on the proposed amendment, which is to add the word agricultural at line 108 before the word renewable or the phrase renewable energy.
If there's been a recommendation made that it's agricultural and aquacultural renewable energy, they add aquaculture if that's necessary.
Are you asking to change? I mean, we're going to put in there whatever language you want voted on, but
great.
So leave it the way it is or put in aquaculture?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Welcome.
The way it is.
Aquacultural renewable energy. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So now, so the proposal now is agricultural and aquacultural renewable energy. Whoever seconded that to consent to that change. Bill, was that you? Okay. You okay with adding and aquaculture? Okay. So since the wording has changed a little bit, I'll call again for any discussion on the proposal to add agricultural and aquacultural before the phrase renewable energy. Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed amendment, please say aye. All those opposed to the proposed amendment, please say no. The proposed amendment is defeated. We will go back to discussion on the resolution as a whole. Any further discussion on resolution as a whole? Steve, your turn.
I think it's like at the end, line 123. Representation of the agricultural industry. I think we should put the blurb in there that at a minimum, representation from the top 4 commodity groups. That should work.
Okay, so the proposed amendment would insert at line 23, and here we're talking about the search committee for a new dean/executive director, representation of the agricultural industry with and this would be inserted with a minimum representation of the state's top 4 commodity groups and at least 2 members of the NJES Board of Managers. Do I have a second for that proposal? Second. Do I have a discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed amendment, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Back to discussion on the full resolution. Brian?
So there will be no amendments here. It's really just a public statement. There's a statement in here about applauding the efforts of the Board of Managers. There's nobody in the room, we can argue about this if anybody wants to, that applauds the efforts of the Board of Managers more than Dean Lawson, myself, and others in ag experiment station leadership, Wendy Kohek, Peggy Brennan. Where we are today is very different. The resolution speaks for itself. The experiment station has been subject to disinvestment for a long period of time. We hit our high water mark in 2008. That was at about a $28 million base budget appropriation. Today, we're at 20.9. You all know costs go up. President Sudan was talking yesterday about prices going up in agriculture. Ours are too. Contractual salary raises, costs of the university, and so forth. I don't know where we would be right now if we haven't had the successes that we've had over the last 4 years to get the supplemental funding, what's called special purpose funding. And I look all of you in the eye, and we've done this every year together now, and the story hasn't changed. This industry went to bat for us to get the special purpose funding to invest in the experiment station, and that's what we've done. So since fiscal year 2019, we've had $10 million come in. We had a little bit of money taken away when COVID hit and the budget crisis hit, but $10 million, every penny has gone into the experiment station. So we really publicly thank you all for your advocacy, the county boards, secretary, the board, everybody, Farm Bureau, and we accept the challenges of this resolution. We have kind of a revolving door right now within extension, within the experiment station, within the school side in terms of faculty and staff. We're in a different environment now. We have a different leadership structure in New Brunswick. So Dean Lawson, who's with us now and will speak later today, basically works closely with our Chancellor Provost to get the types of permissions that we need in order to authorize and implement searches for specialists and agents which are a concern to this body, as well as our teaching and research faculty on the school side. So conferences like this, the voices of our constituents, the work that the Board of Managers is doing with the county boards of agriculture to help us identify and prioritize among many competing priorities is invaluable. So Bill, nothing controversial, Mr. Chairman. So thank you all very much. And if there's any questions on the resolution, Dean Lawson and I would be happy to address them.
Thanks, Brian. I mean, I think I don't know that anybody would not recognize that the atmosphere is very different now than it was a few years ago. And a big part of that is thanks to you and Dean Lawson and a lot of other people, and we really appreciate it. So, any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. And I see President DeFran standing up, so I think I'm done for now. So.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to take the opportunity now to move on to our next speaker. Many of you possibly know him, Keith Dickinson, business consultant from Farm Credit East. If you don't know Keith, I'll share a few points. Keith Dickinson is a business consultant with Farm Credit East based in Bridgeton branch office. His territory includes all of New Jersey and the lower Hudson Valley region of New York. Keith works with farmers and other agricultural business owners to assist them in planning and management of their businesses, including estate and succession planning. With further ado, Keith Dickinson.
Morning. Okay, that's all I needed to hear. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Do a little of this. Do a little of this. Let's get some blood back in those brains. I'm going to be asking you some questions here, and I expect you to be able to answer them. Now, of course, I didn't intend for exit stage left, but okay, they were going to leave during this anyway. So, all right, go ahead and sit back down. So I know we're starting a little late than what it says on the agenda. I wasn't surprised when they said, okay, we're going to do one more when it was 1 minute before I was supposed to start. So, you know, hey, I'm helping pay for lunch, so I'll just go to lunch if I need to. So your agenda said something about insurance. I'm going to cover everything you need to know about insurance right now before I start. You need insurance. You need insurance. You need insurance for lots of things, and you need insurance to cover the risks that you're not willing to take on your own business, whether it's farm owners, whether it's liability, whether it's life insurance. You need to do that. And if you haven't talked with your agent recently, talk to them, make sure you have enough coverage. Anybody bought lumber lately? How much what was its price compared to what you paid 2 years ago? Right? So, you know, think about that when you think about the coverage you have on your facilities, and I can guarantee you probably don't have enough anymore. So I didn't see any Dempsey and Weiss or any of the insurance guys over there this morning, but the booth's over there. You can go talk to them. So let's move on. Planning for success. So when we talk about planning in agriculture, well, let's start on the left there. Planning for production. Not a big, no surprises here. We do this very well in agriculture, right? We spend a lot of time. There's lots of folks in the trade show that'll help you do that planning. Some examples there. What about this planning? Planning for the business. Why do we struggle with this part? Seems like we enjoy doing that. But when it comes to this, I'll get to it. Get to it someday. You know, I'm here to argue that the most successful businesses that I've worked with in my longer career every year spend as much or more time on that right side planning for the business than they do planning for the production. So here to encourage you today to think about spending a little more time planning for your business. You can see the examples there. So if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. Where's your business going? How many folks in here can answer that question with something definitive? Maybe with numbers attached. If somebody wants to raise their hand, they can. I'm not going to embarrass you and make you not do that. So let's take a trip. So I'm a planner. It says that, I mean, even in my, bio or whatever, it sometimes says I'm a certified financial planner. I got that certification mostly just so I could have planner in my title, right? Because I like to plan. I'm a planning nerd. Ask my wife, I had a spreadsheet with me on our honeymoon. Yeah, I'm a planning nerd. I don't do much of anything without a plan. And how I describe a plan is taking a trip. So nowadays it's a little different. When I first started my career 20 plus years ago down in the state of Virginia as a county extension agent, the first thing I did was when I had that county, I went into the local place where you buy maps and bought that big giant book map that had every back road in Fauquier County, Virginia in it. Because, there were a lot of back roads there and I needed how to get point A to point B. And it did a lot of this sort of stuff, pointed out and figuring out where to go. Now you just go into Google Maps and it does that. But does anybody notice that Google Maps changed their algorithm in the last year or so? Now it's the ecological route, not necessarily the quickest or the toll-free. It's what's the ecological route. So if that's important to you, that's good. I need to find a setting to do that because sometimes I don't have time to be ecological. But I describe a plan as just simply no more than taking a trip. Where are we today? Where do we want to be in the future? And how do we get there? Sometimes it's a straight line. Often it's not. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how will you get there? It's as easy as that. So why don't we do more of it? So if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Where are you aiming? Where are you aiming? Where are we going? Now this looked great when I put the slide together, but my little picture there apparently decided to take a hike over to the left. So I'm going to skip that slide. A couple other quotes here. As you can tell, I like quotes. I think there's some smart people out there that lived before me that know a lot about things that I don't know yet. I like this one by John Kennedy. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Anybody out there tried during a rainstorm to try to put a tarp down on that hole in the roof that we just haven't gotten around to fix yet? It is a whole lot easier to repair that when the sun's shining. And then one of my favorites is Richard Cushing there. It says, always plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. In fact, he started building that ark about 100 years before it started raining. Helps when if we all lived as long as Noah, he lived to be 950 years old. If we all lived that long, we might be able to get it done. But I'd guess even Noah had a few things on his to-do list that he didn't get done, right? So business planning is risk management. Risk management is one of those terms that we don't like, right? It sounds boring, but we need to do it. And in my opinion, and opinion of a lot of other folks, having a good business plan helps you mitigate the risk. It does not do to leave a live dragon out of your calculations if you live near one. So my question to you is, what are the dragons living near your business? Do we have enough insurance coverage, as an example, mentioned earlier? We have a business worth $2 million and dad doesn't have a will. It's a pretty big dragon. So what are those dragons? What are the risks that our business faces that we're trying to ignore, but yet we need to address? So risk management. First thing we do is identify the risk, figure out what those dragons are. Then we got 4 basic strategies. We avoid it. Okay. The dragon lives over here. We're going to go this way. We're going to reduce it. Okay. We build a wall. We build a castle. We're going to transfer to share the risk. That's the insurance option, right? We're going to share that with that insurance company. Or we're just going to retain the risk because, you know what? Farming's a risky business and there's a certain amount of risk that we do every year, right? Even with insurance, you have that deductible. You have that amount that you are responsible for. The key thing is that you have a plan that is well thought out and relates to the finances of your business that allows you to not have those risks facing your business be what ends your business. You need to be in control. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. We've heard various versions of this. I attribute it to it's attributed to Ben Franklin here. Other people have said it. So what are you preparing for? Where are you prepared for whatever risk may face your business? And then this is a Keith Dickinson quote: a business plan is not complete without planning for the succession of the business, handing that business off to the next generation. It is not something you do when dad gets sick, mom gets sick, or after the neighbor had a really bad deal with it. That's when I usually get the phone calls. Well, you can plan that. That's an important time period, but it's a whole lot easier when we start that plan earlier, when it's an ongoing part of the business. We're developing that next generation as soon as they're able to be developed. And we have a strategic plan that goes along with the plan for the business. So this isn't mine. This is a guy that was well-known out of Iowa State University, did business succession planning, business planning sort of work, and for extension for a long, long time, developed this model. So this is the family farm life cycle. And this is, the single generation. You start off, you're young, you're full of pep. You kind of, as my dad would say, you start building that business, you're really aggressive. And then at some point you peak. I think I peaked in like 1997, and it's been this long, flat downhill since then. But, and then at some point you peak. So let's say, well, if you're just running a business, okay, we know that's going to happen someday. Sometimes we're in denial about when we've hit that peak. But then let's enter the next generation in there. And you see there's a crossover there. And we can play with where those curves line up. And you can see there's a dip in the middle, right? First generation has peaked and has started going downhill before we've gotten second generation really at the top of their peak. Now, these two intersection curves aren't bad, but that center area, that's some bumpy roads. There's some challenges in the business as we're transitioning into business. That's normal. Well, if we planned ahead, maybe we can get those two curves a little bit closer together and not see the business suffer through that transition. And then what's more and more common these days is this multifamily, right? You know, I farmed side by side with my dad and my grandfather for a few years before embarking on other career, and I'm still farming with my dad. You know, grandpa passed away a few years ago, but dad and I still do this. That's my part-time activity, what I do on weekends, nights, and whenever. And more, we have these three generations simultaneously. The key thing here to being successful in this transition is we're not stretching this out to where these curves have these long gaps in there where we've had this deep down cycle before we start going back up again. There's a financial cost to that. So I'm going to share just a few more slides with you. I've got a tale of two farms. Farmer A and Farmer B. Farmer A, 60 years old, has that profitable business. There's two children in the business, two outside the business, has modest retirement savings and significant equity in the business. It's a well-run business. He's got decent equity there. It's a business that you would want to hand off to the next generation. Farmer B, same profitable business, two children in, two and out, ample retirement savings and significant equity in the business. So what's the one variable that I made different between these two farmers? Retirement savings, right? So what does that result in? So we have two very similar farms, except for that. They could be identical twins, except for Farmer A, it's a balancing act of transferring assets to those on-farm children against that desire to leave something to the non-farm kids. And then they also have their own retirement income needs in the mix. So we have a different scenario there than Farmer B, who they're still balancing that transfer between the on-farm and off-farm kids, but their own retirement income is less of an issue to consider because they planned ahead. So this is just a scenario I put together just to emphasize that part, planning ahead for retirement. You know, quite often I'll get the call to come out and work with folks and say, well, we want to start transferring the farm. Well, one of the first things I look at today is what do the senior generation have set aside for a nest egg? And that often dictates the path that we take in terms of a transfer, in terms of timing and how we do it. Because if we don't have much for mom and dad to live off of, one of my goals is to never have a plan where mom and dad are dependent on, you know, handouts and or eating dog food at some point. That's goal number one. I always want mom and dad to have a respectable retirement. And so there are ways that we can plan for that. It just eliminates some of the options that might be on the table. And we have to make sure that younger generation understands that in the discussion. So that's my retirement planning discussion. This is one of my favorite planning quotes, and I just stuck it in there. It's not really tied to anything in particular, but it's one of my favorite. It's sort of the wrap up is that, you know, Dwight Eisenhower planned the D-Day invasion, one of the biggest military actions in the history of mankind. And he said, in preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And I can agree with that. I'm a planner. And quite often the plans that we come up with at the beginning are not what gets implemented in the end. It's the contingency plans that we develop along the way. And a good plan is never done. It's something that we adjust as conditions change. How many things have you in your business had to adjust in the last 24 months? Quite a bit, right? We have to react. Now, I'll insert this comment here. All of the trends that we're seeing in agriculture, retail business, life today are trends that existed prior to March of 2020. All that's happened in the last 24 months is that it's accelerated. We're today where we would have been probably 5 years from now with our economy, with our businesses, ag retail, mean, the trend for in ag retail, I do work with ag retail businesses quite often. The trend for on-site, curbside pickup and delivery, they were clearly there. We were having those discussions long before anyone knew what a coronavirus was. But we've gotten there quicker because this accelerated it. And you can name countless examples. So my question for you is, what are your battles? What are the battles you're preparing for in your life, in your business that you need to be addressing with a plan? So just to wrap up, I think I have 2 more slides here of my sort of best practices for your finances in your business. Number 1, if you haven't figured it out by now, have a plan. That's a business plan. That B word, the annual budget. A lot of folks, I run into a lot of resistance when I sit down with folks and say, well, let's get a budget together. And a lot of folks look at that. Well, that's too restricting. And I have the opposite opinion. It frees you up. It gives you the freedom and confidence to make decisions in your business on a day-to-day basis without wondering what the impact on your bottom line is going to be. Capital spending plan, let's figure out what equipment we have that's wearing out, what buildings we have that's wearing out, when we think it's going to wear out, and let's try to have a plan for it so that we're not caught with our pants down when everything wears out at once. Review those financials regularly with context. And when I say with context, have something that goes along with it to explain why things happened the way they did. Have that, not just the profit and loss statement that we sit down once a year with our loan officer or with the tax person and understand why, income went up this year. And then, work with yourself and compare, look at your own trends. Where are we headed? Where have we been? The budget, I mentioned that already. Get advice and use it to make your own decisions. I get advice, financial advice. I told you I'm a financial planner, but I don't do all my retirement planning on my own. I get the advice of other planners who are more in the retirement planning phase of things and the investment planning things. I don't rely 100% on my own intuition. I get advice as well, and you should too. There's a lot of sources for advice in all parts of your business and in your financial part of it. Finally, on this slide, spend less time working in your business and more times working on your business. As a manager, we get, this is the firefighter mode. Everything's going to crap and we're just trying to keep the fires at bay. And we just never seem to have time to figure out what the longer range plans is. We'll figure out the ways to get that, free up some time, delegate more responsibility so that you are able to develop a longer term plan for your business. Again, the more successful businesses that I work with all find ways to do this. Finally, appropriate family living expenses. Figure out what your time is worth and pay yourself accordingly. Not too much, not too little. And because that does go both ways. I oftentimes find folks, again, living nearly in poverty for the sake of the business. That's not sustainable. Neither is drawing out 3 times what you can possibly afford to pay yourself. Peer groups. I'm a big fan of peer groups. These can be formal or informal. This convention, the reason people show up is it's one giant peer group. We have a chance to talk to folks, share ideas, and find ways to do that. And certainly today with technology, we have the ability to do that all across the world. Mentors, I think I stole this slide from a young farmer presentation I did, but even the more seasoned business owners can find mentors to help them out. Benchmarks, knowing where you stand, if nothing else, benchmarking against yourself, seeing what your progress is, seeing where you've been and where you're headed. And then finally, bigger is better versus bigger. Better is better versus bigger is better. One of the mistakes I see folks make a lot of time is just always focusing on growth and not necessarily on bottom line growth, focusing on top line growth. Well, as long as our income goes up, we're okay. It's okay. But if our income went up 5% and inflation was 7% last year, we lost ground. So make your business more efficient first, then focus on bigger. So with that, I don't know if I got us on schedule, off schedule, or whatever, but if we have time for a question or two, if anyone has that, go ahead. Or comments, argue with me. I love arguing. Yes, my wife. Yeah.
So one of the reasons we were interested in hearing some conversations about insurance is that when the disasters that have stricken our state, one of the things that we learned was that some of the coverages that people had, they thought they were getting their buildings or their machinery or whatever it was, forget the crop side, just as you said, the business side. They thought that they were going to have replacement value, and they learned that they didn't. And so do you think that there's enough of an education out there, enough interest and notice to people to understand how to keep up with that?
Right.
So that they have that when something hits, they're not left, in financial disaster because they weren't advised by their consultant, by their insurance agent or whatever, that they found themselves in a position where they were almost possibly wiped out. And what could they have done? What should they have done to make sure that they weren't in that predicament?
So the answer to that question is be proactive. I have a high degree of respect for folks in the insurance industry. I'm not an insurance agent. I've never sold insurance in my life, but I told you in the beginning, I'm a firm believer in it. And you need to be proactive because my experience with the folks that sell insurance is that as long as you're paying the bills and they're realizing a profit, they're pretty happy. Now, occasionally they will, try to sell you more. And my experience with most in the agricultural community is they're trying to buy less, right? They're always looking for ways to save money on insurance. And so the question it goes back to a point I made earlier is what level of risk are you willing to take and what can you afford to take in your business from a financial standpoint of what risks we're willing to cover? But where I say be proactive, you should be having an insurance review with your provider for liability, for casualty, for auto insurance, for crop insurance, all the different things that we typically insure in agriculture. You need to be having a review with that provider at least once a year. Sit down with them and say, okay, what's my coverage? A great time is at the beginning of the year when you're preparing that balance sheet for that loan officer. We know what we've seen what our business is worth. We have an updated idea of the financial position of our business. And it's a good time to go chat with the insurance agent and say, you know what? My business is worth $200,000 more than it was last year. I think it's time we look at our coverage. Are we covered? And ask those questions. The same thing goes for life insurance. Life insurance is my view on life insurance is it's there as a tool to cover the risk of you not being there. I have life insurance on my life because in our household, I'm the only one earning a paycheck at the moment. And so if I pass away, I don't want that to have to change immediately. So I have adequate life insurance so that my wife can continue to raise our children at home without the need to run out and get in the workplace. And likewise, I have life insurance on her because if she passes away, I got to hire Mary Poppins to watch the kids so I can continue to do this sort of stuff. So, it's very important. Now, 20 years from now, when the kids are well out of the house, for our household, that risk is no longer there. So I'll probably let that insurance expire. Maybe it'll be other risks. Each business is different. So make sure that you have assessed that risk and have adequate coverage. And it's not something that if you haven't looked at the level of coverage that you have on any of your insurance policies in the last 5 years, get on the phone before you leave here today. Because you're underinsured. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We had inflation in some sectors pushing 10% last year. And if you look over time, if you had adequate coverage 5 years ago, you're about 20% underinsured today, more than likely, based on just that little thing called inflation. And throw in business growth along with it, and the more successful your business, the more frequently you have to update your insurance. Did I do a good job, Doug?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else? Good.
Thank you, Keith. Keith, are you going to be at the luncheon? All right. Well, Keith will be at the luncheon if you have a question that you want to ask him at that point. Okay, so it looks like we're going to move to lunch a little bit early. Are you prepared to come back on? Okay, I'm getting indication we're going to move forward. I like that, Chairman.
I'm sorry for those of you that wanted to get out early. We've got a busy afternoon session and we really need to knock out as much as we can as early as we can. So we have one more resolution. What my hope is we have one more resolution left on our regular packet. My hope is to deal with that one, and if we can, deal with the two resolutions that were tabled yesterday, and that will sort of get us caught up and take the pressure off of this afternoon, because I don't. It gets really nasty late in the afternoon when we're still working on resolutions and we still have to do elections and people want to go home. So, so we're going to go to Resolution 24. Farm viability, found at page 88 of your packet. I will begin reading on page 89 at line 48. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the delegates to the 107th State Agricultural Convention, assembled in Atlantic City, New Jersey on February 9 and 10, 2022, do hereby call on the New Jersey State Board of Agriculture, in cooperation with leadership from the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, Rutgers NJAES, and other agricultural entities, to continue their work on the Farmer Confidence Survey and report back to the delegates to this convention at the earliest possible time on the findings and recommendations regarding the long-term viability of agriculture in New Jersey. Be it further resolved that we urge the legislature to pass and the governor to sign all measures requiring legislative approval that stem from the recommendations in that report, with adequate funding to ensure effective implementation. Do I have a motion to adopt? I have a motion and a second. We have discussion. Pat? This is one of the, while Pat's coming to the microphone, I'll tell you, this is one of the items we discussed at the committee meeting last night. We agreed on some additional language, and Pat is going to move that language.
So I don't need to read the new language, or I do need to read it?
You can read it or I can read it, either one.
Okay, well, this came about because we felt that the ask in this resolution was weak, and we wanted to strengthen the ask, since so many of the issues we've talked about over convention really are reasons why ag viability is fallen down. And a lot of people today are really talking about, is this industry going to be able to be here 5 years from now? Can we still keep our farms? Some farms have been sold in the recent months that were in the business for a very long time, multi-generational operations, and we don't want that to be a trend. So we want to really have a commission formed that's going to really look into this more globally on all of the issues and see if we can come up with some really strong programs or something that will help us in the future. So if you could read it, because I can't really see it, and I don't have one in my hand.
Yep. So at line 51, following Yo, no, too much. So I'll begin reading. I'm looking for the beginning. Let's start just, Jeff, there you go. I'll just start so that we have context at the beginning of the resolve. Now therefore, all of us here in Atlantic City, call on the State Board of Agriculture in cooperation with leadership from the New Jersey Department of Agriculture, Rutgers, NJAES, and other agricultural entities to form a commission to examine the array of issues involved in a crisis of confidence and future viability for agriculture in New Jersey. Strike the following language, back up there. Strike, continue their work on the Farmer Confidence Survey and report back to the delegates to this convention at the earliest possible time on the findings and recommendations regarding the long-term viability of agriculture in New Jersey. And then, then be it further resolved that we urge the legislature to pass. So that's, is there more down at the bottom, Jeff? Okay. Okay, is that, where did Pat go? Oh.
I'm right here.
I was looking in your seat.
That's the essence of what we proposed. We had more language, but we figured let's keep it simple and not go into the weeds with it. But, you know, we had this in last year's resolutions and it didn't really take hold. So this year we really want to concentrate on this and try to come back with a report to the whole group.
Very good, thanks. So that's the proposed change. Do I have a second for that? Second. The floor is open for discussion on the proposed amendment.
I'd just like to make a comment. Would it be feasible to put a time frame for this to happen so that we can get this information back to the delegates? I.e., a year, 2 years? What are we thinking?
Does it say coming back to the next convention? So it's a 1 year.
Yeah.
But was that removed or is that earliest? It said earliest possible.
Yes.
And then that was crossed out. So just a comment.
No, that's good.
Yep. All right, Pat, are you okay with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Jeff, if you can back me down, just, I can't see the first part of there you go. So the proposed language is form a commission to examine the array of issues involved in a crisis of confidence and future viability for agriculture in New Jersey and report back to this convention in 2023. So, any further discussion on the proposed amendment?
Question on lines 44. The whereas talks about the study.
Hold on just a second, please. Is this
concerning
related
this.
to the amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Lines 24 talk about the survey that was begun by Rutgers and Fairleigh Dickinson, but it's not yet completed. In the whereas lines below, we have deleted the sections that deal with the continuation of the survey. What is the intent of the survey and the work that's been done to date in relationship to the commission which we're proposing? It's a question to the proposer of the amendment.
Brian, you want to? Yeah.
For simplicity, I believe that Chairman.
Brian, turn the mic up. So, yeah, thanks.
Turned it down too low. I would recommend to the delegates that we strike lines 43 through 47. It's being generous. The survey's not yet been initiated in the field. This is something that is going to be predicated in large part whether NAS, the National Ag Statistics Service, can work with us on this. If not, we have a Plan B approach. My opinion is that would be the more costly and more effective way to go, but I don't know if we can do it with them. So I think to the question,
Okay, I think this is a little, we're lumping two things together here, which,
I think and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, ma'am. The point here was that this is tying into a portion of the resolution that was struck in the be it resolved.
Right.
And I'm suggesting we just strike this language. In that way, there's no confusion.
So Pat,
That's fine with me.
okay, and who was the second on that, Bill? I think you were the second. Okay, with you? Okay, so the amendment is now to strike lines 43 through 47 and insert the language that we discussed earlier, followed by a deletion of the language which I read as deleted. So, any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the proposed amendment, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Back to discussion on the full resolution. Any further discussion on the full resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution as adopted as amended is adopted. All right, now, we still have 18 minutes left before we're supposed to break for lunch. So let's try and deal with the tabled motions. The first one that was tabled was resolution number 5, farming on public lands. We discussed this in the committee meeting last night and came up with a consensus on a change for that. And Jeff, if you can put that one up when you find it. I've already read this once. I'm not going to read it again. But I do need a motion to take it off the table. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. Okay. So, were there multiples, Jeff? Okay, that's what I thought, but all right, so we're going to do this in a couple pieces because we can't put everything on the screen at one time. So, one of the changes proposed was at line 13 to insert after an email from the following language: the Department of Environmental Protection. Okay, I have a motion to add that language and a second. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Okay, so due to an editing issue, following the insertion are the words "those who control those lands." That language is to be stricken. So whoever made the motion, is that okay with you? Okay, and the second is okay. So the motion is at lines 13 and 14 to insert the words "the Department of Environmental Protection" and strike the words "those who control the lands." Any further discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Okay. The next proposal is at line 45 to add after the phrase auction process, the phrase with no minimum bid, to insert with no minimum bid after auction process. Do I have a motion to move this language? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Now, we have proposed new language and deletions in lines 50 through 60. Be it further resolved that we urge all municipalities, counties, or others leasing public lands to farmers give consideration to farmers for the long-term investment of land maintenance and have the option for a multiple-year lease to recoup the costs necessary to maintain lands and allowing long-term crops to reach, I think maturity is highlighted, but I think it stays in, to reach maturity, e.g. Christmas trees and other perennial crops, when the maturing of those crops would take longer than the term of the initial lease. And then there is some deleted language in there. Well, you can read the deleted. If anyone want me to read the deleted language? Okay, I didn't think. I know you're all tired of me, and I understand. So, do I have a motion to move the language in red on the screen? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. That's all the amendments that we proposed, so we're back to the full resolution. Is there any discussion on the full resolution?
John Hart, Mercer County. After reading all this, I want to go back to 11, and where it says successfully bid on state public lands. Maybe we should put in the bid on state, county, or municipal public lands, because it just says state lands here.
Yeah, that's a very specific situation where the state, after they had put these, if I understand it, and anybody correct me if I'm stating this incorrectly, but after the state had put these leases out to bid and they had been bid on, they then notified the prospective tenants that they were not going to allow the use of neonicotinoid pesticides.
Right, well, that's why I say that, because Mercer County's purchased a couple farms recently, and the farmers have been farming them for a while. They came back to them after they already limed and bought their seeds, and did the same thing. They said, well, we're going to, you can't put Roundup on, you can't, and you have to pay $40 an acre. So I just wanted to make sure that all of, municipalities and counties can do the same thing as the state.
Okay, so this is a whereas, which is sort of background information. If you want, we can put in another whereas describing that county situation, but this is sort of background information in the resolution.
Well, yeah, that's fine. You can do it that way.
Okay,
Whereas.
so if you want to try and can you give Jeff what happened, which county, and what did they do? Okay, yeah, maybe we don't want to put the county name, but whereas a county. A county, okay, Jeff, you got to look toward Jeff and give him some guidance here on what to write.
Whereas recently a county purchased private land for public use, and let's see, I don't know, maybe somebody help me out here. I'm just trying to protect the farmer that already has investment in the property, how he can get.
Well, what we're talking about is a leasing situation,
Yeah, leasing,
right?
yeah, right.
All right, so how about recently a county leased land to farmers, is it one or more farmers?
Well, yeah, to one or
Pu-
more
pu-
farmers.
Well, multiple, there's more than
Multiple
one.
farmers,
Okay,
yeah.
2 farmers. And subsequently inform those farmers that they
Are restricted from,
are restricted from what?
restricted from certain pesticides.
The use of
The use of
certain
of,
pesticides.
Yeah.
Does that cover it?
Yeah, that's fine. That's good.
Okay, so you're moving that language?
Yes.
Okay, that's, so I have a motion to insert an additional whereas, which would read, recently a county leased land, there's an L missing, leased land to multiple farmers and subsequently informed those farmers that they would be restricted from the use of certain pesticides. So I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The amendment is adopted. Back to discussion on the full resolution. Any further discussion on the full resolution as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say no. The resolution is adopted. All right. Mr. President says we get to go to lunch a couple minutes early. So thanks very much for your cooperation. If we can keep going, we'll get this all done.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, delegates, we are moving to the Farm Credit East Luncheon. This will be held upstairs, Avalon Ballroom, entrance 3. We need to be back here by 2 p.m. for our next speaker. Dr. Byer, so on the nomination, so I'm going to do the end nomination. If you're going to start, I'm going to pass the podium over for the legality. Have you seen any of that? No. Is that in your book? We're going to go right to it. Yeah. I'm hoping. Yeah, so
Okay,
election.
So I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll